Very sad.
No, the atmosphere was not sad.
No, the
atmosphere
atmosphere was not
like a party.
sad.
The atmosphere was
The
very
atmosphere
happy.
was like a party. The atmosphere was very happy. Was the atmosphere sad or happy?
The atmosphere was happy. The atmosphere was like a party.
The atmosphere was like a party. What was like a party?
The atmosphere in the cemetery was like a party.
The atmosphere in the cemetery was like a party. Where was the atmosphere like a party?
In the cemetery, the was atmosphere like a party in the cemetery.
Right? The cemetery. The atmosphere was like a party in the cemetery. Was the atmosphere like a party at my house?
No, not at my house.
No,
The atmosphere
not at my house.
was like a party in the cemetery.
In the cemetery.
The atmosphere was not like a party in my house.
In my house. So the atmosphere was like a party. There were people everywhere. Families were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. Where were the families sitting?
Around the grave. They were sitting around the grave.
Right? They were sitting around the graves. Who was sitting around the graves?
The families were sitting around the graves.
Families were sitting around the graves. Were they sitting around the trees?
No, they were sitting around
they
the
weren't sitting around the trees. They were sitting around the graves. So, where were they sitting? Around the graves.
Family was sitting around the grave of the dead ancestors.
Of their dead ancestors. Were they sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors?
Yes, they were sitting around the grave of the dead ancestors.
Of their dead ancestors. Were they sitting around the graves of their friends?
No, not really. They were sitting around the grave of the dead ancestors.
They were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. Who was sitting around the graves?
Family was sitting around the grave.
Around the graves. Whose graves were they sitting around? Whose graves were they sitting around?
Yes, very dead ancestors. Their ancestors, the grave. They were sitting around the grave of the dead ancestors.
Their ancestors' graves. They were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. Were they sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors or the graves of their friends?
Ancestors, they're sitting around the grave of the dead ancestors.
Around the graves of their dead ancestors. They cleaned the graves.
That's right, the families.
Fresh flowers.
Okay.
Who cleaned the graves?
That's right, the families.
That's right, the families. What did they add?
They add fresh flowers.
They added fresh flowers. Did they add food?
No, they didn't add
they
food.
Didn't add food. Did they add money?
No, they didn't add
they didn't
money.
Add money.
They added fresh flowers.
What did they clean?
They cleaned the grave.
They cleaned the graves. Whose graves did they clean?
The ancestors, they cleaned their
Their
ancestors'
ancestors,
grave.
right? They cleaned their ancestors' graves.
Graves.
Where did they add flowers?
They add that
Where?
flower to the
They added
graves.
flowers to the graves. That's right. They cleaned the graves and added fresh flowers. Good. I walked through the cemetery and admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers. Where did I walk? Through
To
the
the
cemetery.
cemetery.
I
I walked through the cemetery.
Did I walk through the park?
No, I did walk
No,
through the
I didn't
park.
walk through the park.
I
I
walked
walked
through
through
the cemetery.
Where did I walk? Through the cemetery. Who walked through the cemetery?
I did
I did.
easy.
AJ.
I walked
I
through the
walked
cemetery.
through the cemetery. Did I walk through the cemetery or did I walk through the park?
I walked through the
I
cemetery
walked through
and
the
I
cemetery.
admire
That's
the beauty of the
right.
colorful
And I
flowers.
admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers. Did I admire the beauty of the trees?
No, I did admire the
No,
beauty
I
of the
didn't
street.
admire the beauty of the trees. Did I admire the beauty of the children?
No, I did admire
No,
the beauty of
I
the
didn't
children.
admire the beauty of the children.
Children.
What did I admire? The flowers, right? Yeah, I admired
The beauty of the
of all the
colorful
colorful flowers.
flowers.
Who admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers?
That's right, easy me.
Right. AJ, me,
Admire the
admired
beauty
the
of
beauty
the
of all
colorful
the
flowers.
Where were the flowers?
The flowers
On the
was
graves.
on the grave
In
in
the
the
cemetery.
cemetery.
Right? The flowers were on the graves in the cemetery. Were the flowers in the park?
No, they wasn't
No,
in the
they
park.
weren't in the park. Were the flowers in my house?
No, they weren't in my
No,
house.
They weren't in my house. Where were the flowers?
The flowers on the grave in
flowers
the
were
cemetery.
On the graves in the cemetery. Where did I walk?
I walked through the cemetery.
I walked through the cemetery. When did I walk through the cemetery?
November 1st, the day of the dead, I walked through the
November
cemetery.
1st, the Day of the Dead. Right? November 1st, the Day of the Dead, I walked through